The remaster of Spider-Man PS4 on PS5 is about to release on PC. And is it good? Probably. There's no point in me getting it because I have it on PS5, but if the port is good, then the game should be good. I played the game a couple of months after it came out, and I really enjoyed it. The story was really good, and it was cool to play an older Peter instead of another high school one. All the movies were high school Peter Parkers, and in this game, he's 8 years into being Spider-Man, so he isn't going through that high school arc again. He's already living on his own, him and MJ have split up, and MJ knows that he's Spider-Man, and there are a lot of other things that he does that you don't see in the movies. I watched like 2 episodes of the old shows, so I never watched any of those or read any of the comics, so this was an original interpretation when it came to Spider-Man. But there were also some cool Easter eggs referencing the movies here and there. I'm going to start getting into spoilers, so click to this part of the video if you haven't played the game yet. I'm not going to get into deep spoilers, but you'd be better off skipping this portion of the video. Alright, so spoilers. But like the train scene over here was one of those cool Easter eggs.
Totally worked last time.
It was just a cool nod to Spider-Man 2, and there were some other ones throughout the game as well. Like, when you're in gameplay and are walking across the street, he does the Spider-Man 3 meme dance when interacting with pedestrians. I'm not gonna go over the other ones, but there's a good amount of them that you'll notice throughout the game. But the story itself was also really good. As Spider-Man, he has to deal with everything going on with Mr. Negative, the Devil's Breath, the Sinister Six and everything. And as Peter Parker, he works as a research assistant with Otto, helps Aunt May with Feast, and has a lot of things to deal with and balance as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Like in the very beginning, you see that he's behind on rent, and he decides to ignore it, but that leads him to be evicted. So now he has his consequences to face as well. I don't know if it's my favorite interpretation, because I like all the interpretations from the movies, especially after No Way Home with Tom, but this one's up there. When it comes to the villains, you've got 3 main ones, Mr. Negative, Dr. Octopus, and Norman Osborn, and they were all nice villains. Norman is a society villain, and for the story that the game is going for, I think they were all very well done. Doc Ock and Mr. Negative want to get revenge on Norman for their own reasons, and they team up and Otto forms the Sinister Six to defeat Spider-Man and Osborn. And the way the story came to an end was really nice. Just in case people are watching and haven't played the game or don't know any of the spoilers, I won't say it, but if you played it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that scene at the end was just perfect in all aspects. The voice acting was incredible, the mocap animation was amazing, and the decision he had to make at the end was super tough for him, and it's nice seeing the decision he ends up making. But anyway, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the story is the intro of Miles. This game came out like a couple of months before Into the Spider-Verse came out, and it was the first time I was introduced to Miles Morales, and they did a good job with his dad's death and everything. I'm gonna play Miles Morales soon, and I'll drop a video on that as well, but so far it was a good introduction to his story, and the story overall was just really good. On top of the story, the voice acting and all the performances were also pretty sick, especially with Sasuke as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Again, that last scene that I don't want to elaborate on was so nice. And also, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, but the voice actress for MJ was crazy as well, cause Laura Bailey sounds nothing like her other roles, at least the ones that I've heard of. I heard her as Abby in The Last of Us Part 2 and Nadine from Uncharted 4, and they sound nothing alike. And bundled with the animations and everything, the scenes look incredible. As I'm recording this video, I haven't played the PS5 remastered version yet, but I will when I capture footage. The PS5 version does look better, like when I saw footage on YouTube, but I do like the original model for Peter more. The original model looked like more of a mature Peter Parker, while the newer one looks like one that's at the point where the MCU Peter's at. His face seems like it would fit better with like Tom Holland's voice, which is slightly higher pitched than Yuri Lowenthal's. But with that being said, the new one does look so much better. The original one already looks good, but the new one is the most realistic model I've seen in a video game, I want to say. Like, if I saw this at first glance without knowing this was from the new remaster, I would have thought it was a live action image. But if you give me like 5 seconds, I'd realize it was from a video game. And the game overall is beautiful. Even the PS4 version looks really good today, and the PS5 remastered version just looks better. I don't know what it's gonna look like on Ultra Boost PCs with max turbo settings, but it'll probably be amazing. The world is beautiful as is, and apparently spot on as well. And at no point do you want to fast travel in this game. It's super fun web slinging, and it's probably the best form of traversal in any game. They spent 50 years working on the web slinging, and you can tell. And also, I like how for fast travel, they have him ride the subway, cause it makes sense. It's just a cool little goofy addition, and it shows that he's tired from web slinging, which I thought was a nice little touch. When it comes to the gameplay, this is something that they nailed as well. Some people might not like how it's a copy and paste of like the Arkham combat, but I don't mind at all. The combat in those games is one of my favorites, and for this game, they had the combat with Spider-Man's fighting style. Batman's beefier and like slower, and you can feel more of the punches with his hits, whereas Spider-Man is a lot younger and slimmer, with a faster and more acrobatic fighting style. There's also more verticality when it comes to Spider-Man's fighting because there's a dedicated jump button, so he can like swing into his enemies and kick them, jump and web them up, or shoot any gadgets and do a whole bunch of other moves. When it comes to stealth, again, you can do an endless amount of things with your gadgets and approach the level and interact with the environments in so many different ways. You can do an Arkham takedown, zip web enemies together, or just single out one enemy, use trip mines, use different kind of webs, pull debris down on them, and do a whole bunch of things. But not only that, you can also use a special ability depending on the suit that you have. Each suit comes with its abilities apart from a few, and it's really fun to use the different ones. I don't remember what my favorite one was, but I think I liked using the Iron Spider suit a lot. They added in the movie suits as well, but for some reason they didn't add the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit in. They just had the first one that looks worse. But you can use all the suits up until Far From Home in the game, and they look amazing. Just would have been nice if they had the better looking one from the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but hopefully they add that in the next game. They'll definitely add the Spider-Man 3 black suit because Venom is the villain in that game, and I think they said somewhere that that suit is for another game or something along those lines. But anyways, one thing that I think they can do more of in the next game is add more enemies. The enemies in this game are fine, but in the next game, I just want to see more. So like one idea is like jetpack enemies so you can use more of the verticality. But for the first game, I think what we got was good enough. And the same thing applies to the bosses. Now, I think there were enough bosses, I just think they could be better in the new games. Some of them were cool, like the Vulture and Electro one, but other ones could have been better, like the Taskmaster one. The fights kind of start feeling the same, where you just attack when their cover is down. So yeah, I think they could be better in the next game. But the biggest issue that most people had were the MJ and Miles stealth missions. Now, I didn't mind it as much, cause it didn't feel like they happened very often when I played it. I took my time with the game, and their missions altogether felt like an hour, I wanna say. An hour or an hour and a half. But I like the mission in the New York place. I don't remember what it's called, but it's the place you see in half the movies you've seen. But I thought the mission in there with seeing Spider-Man from a different perspective was cool, and I didn't mind the MJ and Miles missions as much. The part where you investigate was fine, but the stealth part of it was just really easy. But other than some of those stealth missions and the boss fights, I don't really have any issues with the gameplay and the game as a whole. I want to take back what I just said right here, cause as I'm capturing footage, I'm realizing how boring it is. First playthrough, I don't remember having any issues with it, but second playthrough, you can definitely tell how poo it is. So yeah, this is the worst part about the entire game. But the last thing I want to talk about is the open world activities, and they're fine. None of them are great, but they were just fine. Like you have a bunch of friendly neighborhood type of missions which are perfect for Spider-Man, like you make sure the air quality is clean, find pigeons and shit, and they were kinda goofy, but it makes sense for the game. Some of them went on for too long though, I wanna say, like the ones where you go on a car chase, but other than that, I had no problem with them. And I also just like how the collectibles were backpacks cause it makes sense for this interpretation. You don't have any Riddler equivalent in these games, but there are some puzzles you get to solve in the main story and in some of the side missions as well. And again, they were fine. But that's pretty much it for the video. This was also my first ever platinum, so I 100% everything and it was really easy. Not really any challenge to it, cause you just beat the game and all the side missions. But giving Spider-Man a final score, I'ma give it a grade 0.5. The biggest issue with the game were the boss fights and the MJ and Miles missions. The boss fights just felt kinda samey and the MJ missions were just so poo. You can subscribe to the channel while you go through those missions, it's that easy. And make sure to subscribe to the channel since only 3% of everyone watching are currently subscribed. Subscribing to the channel actually makes you feel like Spider-Man, so you'd want to do that right now. But if you're on PC and are planning to get it, then I definitely check it out. And if you're on PlayStation, you might as well get PlayStation Plus Extra and get it through there. I'm gonna play Miles Morales later this year or before the new game comes out, and I'll drop a video around then. I've heard the story isn't as good as this game or that it's kinda corny, but I'm still gonna play it because I think the combat's gonna be enough for me to play it and enjoy it thoroughly. But that's pretty much it for this video. Later.